All right, so in this exercise, we're going to be going through the process of making this little stool here within Fusion. And so we've got a few different pieces on it. So let's flip over to it. Look, we're going to have the top piece here, which is just a flat piece of sheet metal to circle. We have this ring, goes around, it's going to be rolled. So we go to flatten it. It'll give us the full length before we roll it. We have these legs here, which we're going to bring in from master. And then we're going to make angled cuts on them, so that way we can put them together here. And then we're going to make this bottom ring here where it's at an angle. It'll touch all of those legs there. So that'll be some new things. And this one will actually be using 2 sketches in order to make that one feature. So the way we're going to do this is, first thing, go into your settings, and you're going to set up a 10 gauge, 12 gauge, and a 16 gauge profile. And then we're going to make this first piece, and it's just going to be, we're going to draw it, and instead of extruding it, we're going to go into sheet metal and use the flange, so that way it uses the sheet metal tools to do it, so we can pick the thickness based on our styles. One thing that lets us do is that eventually, if we're at work doing things and we went over to utilities, there's this nest option that's in one of the add-ins you can do, and it'll put together different pieces of material or different parts based on the size of material that they're made out of, and then that'll show, it'll put them all into one sheet, and you can tell I want 5 of these and 10 of these and whatever, and it'll figure out the best way to fit them in. So we're not doing that in this class, but by having it be sheet metal, it lets you do that thing. So over here on the seat ring, we're going to do pretty simple steps there. So we're going to go back to here, and I'll just kind of show you the step. We're going to look at it from the bottom because we want to kind of build this thing going down. And then we're just going to extrude that because we want to just capture that outer edge. And so we'll do a thin extrude, and then we'll just pick on that face. Now we can tell it our distance, which is going to be 1.5, and our wall thickness is going to be 0.59 because that's going to be 16 gauge, and we want new component. And that'll make the ring there. And then in sheet metal, we have a tool called Convert to Sheet Metal. So under Create, Convert to Sheet Metal, and we're just going to pick on that, and it's going to match up with the rule that has the same thickness. So it'll bring in those settings, and we'll say OK. And if we try and do a flat pattern of this now, it's going to roll a fit. It's going to say can't do it because there's no, it's continuous. It can't unfold it. So we have to add a little gap in there. We're going to go to Create or Modify and Rip. We're just going to add a little hole in there, and we're just going to pick 2 points. We want to make them kind of vertical from each other. I haven't been able to figure out a good way to make these numbers line up exactly, so just kind of eyeball it. You can see if you can drag these and get a little bit of angle. So if you wanted it to be more of an angled joint, you can do that. If you want it to be more of a straight up and down joint, you can do this. And so for this, I'm just doing straight up and down. Say OK. And now when I go to the flat pattern, and just pick on the side of it here, say OK, say OK, and there's my flat pattern. I can just finish that, and there, I've made that piece. So I'm going to kind of get out of that, and so that's that piece. Doing the legs, you've done that before. You've brought in a piece of material. We're just going to bring that angle iron in. We want to be able to cut it, so that way, if we look at it from side, so let's go this way. We want that to be even. Turn those off. We want to be able to have this little flat spot there, so it can line up and be flat against the bottom, but also flat on the ground at that angle. So we want to just bring in a piece that's longer than what we need. But in order to cut it, we have to be able to cut it look like this, be able to cut through the middle of the V. And we don't have that just when we insert it. So if we come back here, if I do a sketch, let's say on this side, when I cut it here, I'll cut this one flange, but I won't be cutting that flange. And it's not going to give me the right measurement. So I could try and do 2 cuts. It's not going to come out right. So what I want to do is I need to create a plane right in the middle of this, going kind of this way, like straight through this point and then halfway between those. So I'm going to construct, and these are different ways we can make planes that we can draw on. We'll also later on do some points to create a plane. So we're going to do midplane. Now I can just pick either both outsides, or I could pick both insides, and it's going to put it there. If I pick one outside and one inside, you can see the plane doesn't go through the corner, so don't do that. Make sure you pick the 2 of the same thing. So there we go, and I say okay, and then there's my plane. Now I can create a sketch just on that plane, but I can't do what's there, and because this has got a little curve there, trying to project that edge is going to be a little bit difficult. And so we're going to use another tool called sponge profile. So it's going to take this thing and kind of spin it around and make a simple outline shape of it. I'm going to pick sponge profile. Make sure that you're on the body so that we don't have to pick individual faces and things. So I'm just going to pick that whole body. And for the axis, I want it to spin around this edge, because this edge is already going through the plane. So that's on there. That's good. I'm going to go that way, but I don't want that. I want to flip it so it goes this way, just so I can kind of keep it inside and say okay. And then from here, I draw a line from there to there, and then again from here to here somewhere. And I'm going to make those 2 parallel to each other. And now I can do a dimension between that line and that line. See, they both changed. And then I can just pick on both the lines and give it a number. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller so we can just kind of see what's going on. And then when I extrude, I'm just going to pick the top section and then zoom in here and grab that little bottom section there. And I want to cut both of it. So I'm going to say symmetric. I'm going to say all the way through. That changes to cut, and then bam. Now I've got this little piece there. That's that. That's like that. So if I turn on that seat top, you can see my pieces are here. And so when I put them together, I'm going to pick how I do it. If I pick this top piece here, then I pick the bottom here. There, that looks right. It's got the right line up for it. If I can look at it from the bottom, I can see it's kind of twisted though at 45. So I can just take this and twist it to 35 degrees. And then I can grab this one and pull it out to my measurement. I think I have it at 3 inches, something like that. And so that looks good. If I pick the wrong side though, so if I do the joint and I pick, let's say this side, do it, you can see now the outside of the V is going there. And so depending on how your part comes in and how you make your cuts, it might be the top or the bottom of the leg that you need to grab, put it on. But you want to make sure that when you put it on, it's not this way, that it's joining where your single edge is going outwards. And then make sure you rotate it. So either 45 or 135. And then drag it out your distance. Because now once we have this, we're going to go in and do a circular pattern. Make sure you pick components. Don't pattern the body. If you pattern the body, because that's the here, and I pick here, now I still only have one leg, but I have 3 bodies inside of it, and that's not what I want. I want to make sure you pattern the component. That way it picks the leg component, not the body. And then for the axis, I want to pick just anything that's round there. Say okay. Now that brings that in, and they're equally spaced. And we can see that we have our legs. And so if you go back to here, I've got that. Oops. So from here, I have this done. And now I want to create the ring down here. And so we're going to use a tool called point along path. And we're going to just go and we're going to grab kind of the bottom end of one of these legs. Doesn't matter which one, just pick the same one both times. It might be good to do it on the leg, the first one, but it doesn't really matter. So if that's my first one, just to say I want to do that. I'm going to point along path, and then just pick this outer edge there. That's where we're wanting to touch. And right now it's set at proportional. It means that it's giving me a percentage of the length of that line that's going to measure up. That's not what I want. I want to go with an actual distance. I want to say I want that to start 5 inches up from the bottom. So it's going to measure along that leg 5 inches. I'm going to say okay, and that puts a point there. And then I can do it again. Along path, grab that again, grab it at the bottom, because if you grab it at the top, now it's going to measure from that same side. Oh, that's nice. Sometimes it might measure from the other side if you do it. So I'm going to tell it to be 6. So now I've got 2 little points here, and then I can use offset plane, just pick on the top, and I'm going to tell it to go to an object. I'm going to pick that point. Say okay. And then by picking the point, if I move that point up and down, so if I tell that to be 8, it moves up, and the plane moves up. If I just pick on it, so if I just pick offset there, I just pick the point, it looks like it goes to it, but it's just saving the distance. Now if I move that point 4, you can see in this time that plane didn't move with it because it was just going to a distance, not to the point. So we want to make sure we pick to object, grab that point, say okay. So now we've got those planes set up. And now I just need to draw where I want my ring to be. So I'm just going to create a sketch down here. I'm going to draw a circle from there out here somewhere. And then just holding control, grab the circle and grab that point. We're going to tell it to be coincident. And you can see it locks it out to that size. And we're going to finish. And then do the same thing on here. Circle, here, out somewhere. That circle, the point, coincident, and now I have those 2 sketches. And so we're doing what's called a loft. It's going to be a lofted flange, but in the solids we have a loft command also, which lets you go from one shape to a different shape or different sizes. And so we're going to do that here within the flange command. So go to flange. We're going to tell it to be a lofted flange. Now we pick the profile. So just pick our 2 profiles. And there's a few different ways that these can be done if you watch the other videos. One is it can do one that's been done on a break, so it's going to give break lines. I can tell it kind of what my bend angles are going to be, if I wanted to bend it sequentially, or kind of the distance of how flat the flat piece is, all that stuff there. Or I can do die, and it's going to pretend like I'm going to set it down and stamp it or roll it to get the solid. I'm going to do that. And for side, I want to make sure that it's not overlapping. So you can see right now it's overlapping. So I'm going to say no, go side 2, go outside. Now it's not going to overlap. And then make sure you do new component. Now we can go in here and pick our rule. So we're going to take this into 10 gauge. And say okay. And now I have that piece. And if I try to make a flat pattern, guess what? It's not going to work. It's going to say, nope, can't do it. And so I do need to rip that also. So modify, rip, and it'd be nice to have both the seams kind of be above each other. I want to go there, say okay. Now I can go in, go back to the flat pattern, and it'll do it for me. Okay, so you can see that's too big because I changed my points. If I change where those are. Move that up. You can see it did that. It also affects the rip. I can just double click on the rip, adjust it, and then redo my flat pattern, and it'll do the edit. So, all right, I hope you enjoy this activity and learn some new commands and some new options on how to do things that you can take forward into future projects.